Finishing up real quick, aerodynamics. Okay, I did just explain drafting a teammate. Okay, when you're drafting a teammate, it's a little bit different than when you're drafting somebody who is on another team. When you're drafting somebody who's on another team, you need to be going just as fast as they are, with the minimum amount of effort and the maximum amount of their effort. And I explained that when you're drafting another cyclist, it slows them down. It doesn't just make you go faster. Okay? It doesn't just reduce your aerodynamic drag, it increases theirs. Alright? There's no such thing as a free lunch. You can't just go behind somebody and go, super fast, okay, without something in the universe happening. And so it does indeed slow them down. Alright. Many people think of aerodynamics like it's three-dimensional paint, and I'm sorry, but that's not how they work. Okay? When you go through air, you are indeed you're not painting the air so that something behind you can just go through as though you just created a vacuum for them. Okay? That's not how they work. Your aerodynamics are really a bunch of vortexes, and those vortexes will create a system, more or less, that allows you to go a little bit faster when you're behind something, and it decreases the pressure that's behind the rider. And as that pressure decreases, then the high pressure zone and the front of the rider will slow them down even more. And they will literally feel, you will literally feel at speeds of 30 miles an hour or more, you will feel the drag of somebody coming up behind you. It will feel like the wind just increased a few miles per hour. And that's critical. You can even feel it from a car. You can even feel it from a car coming up behind you, especially if it's really close, which is, illegal. But if that car gets really close to you, you can feel that aerodynamic pull. And you can make a car feel yours. What's important about all that, and why I'm repeating that so much, is because whenever you draft behind something, you need to know whether or not to get really, really close to it. Because teammates, and even sometimes other riders within a race, or anybody within a group ride, you don't really want to get too close. And when you're drafting a truck, the closer you get, the better it will be for you, period. Okay, if you could touch it, that would be the fastest way to go. Okay, in fact, if you have a front wheel fender, actually literally touching that almost to a car on a perfectly flat road, which is rare, okay, but on an absolutely perfectly flat road, touching your front fender to their car is actually, obviously what's fastest. So when you're drafting a car or a truck on the road, which you can do, you have to overcome this next force I'm about to talk about for basically 1.5 videos, and that is inertia. So you can't just get behind a bus, a city bus or something, and go 40 miles an hour. That is because that bus gets to that speed relatively quickly. Okay, it takes it about 5-6 seconds to get up to 40 to 50 miles an hour, whether it's a bus or a large truck. Cars get there much faster than that and don't provide nearly as much of a aerodynamic pull, so you really have to get close to them, like within a foot. And cars also have much better brakes. So I don't recommend drafting anything smaller than an SUV or a large pickup. And even then, observe kind of the atmosphere of the vehicle. If the atmosphere of the vehicle is a nice, fast, speedy kind of person, then you probably don't want to be too close, because they might, erratically brake. When you approach a larger truck, you have to absolutely sprint to keep up with it. Alright, depending on exactly how big it is and what road it is and how hard they're trying. Because if they have traffic in front of them, then they're not going to be flooring it. They're going to be going relatively slowly. So if you come behind a semi, you want to draft him as close as you can. I wouldn't recommend really being more within 3 foot or so, which is nice because a semi still provides quite a bit of aerodynamic pull at 3 or 4 feet. Okay, whereas a car does not. A car, you got to be within that 3 foot zone, 2 foot zone to really feel its pull, and then it can just hit the brakes or turn or whatever, and you can be up a creek. So, the only advantage to drafting a car over these other things is that oncoming traffic can see you, and this is the next part to this, the importance of drafting. When you try to draft these vehicles, you're going to want oncoming traffic to see you, which means you shouldn't be, even though it's more efficient, right perfectly behind the center of a bus, or especially a semi-truck or a large boxy truck. You should not be perfectly behind the center. Oftentimes cars are waiting for these long things to get by, and cars are going to try to squeeze by because they're impatient, and they might hit you because they didn't see you drafting behind a truck. If they're like turning, whether they're turning left off of a road where turning left would do it, or turning right. If they're turning through the road, okay, and they're going to try to come across the back end of the truck, they can hit you. Okay, and I've gotten close to being hit several times. Not because of drafting, but just because of coincidentally being directly behind kind of the middle of cars. So what you want to do is ride on the left side in the US. Okay? You want to ride on the leftmost side behind that vehicle so that you can see. Because if you can't see them, they definitely can't see you, so that you can see oncoming traffic. And if you can see oncoming traffic, you should be alright. Okay? Because they can see you, or at least you can tell what they're doing. And if you can tell what they're doing, you can prepare for it, get out of the way or whatever. You also want to keep your eyes fixated on the lights of the truck in front of you. And it's also nice to be behind one of their wheel patterns so that you can hear their wheels when they hit a pothole. Okay? So if you're on the left side, that is the left side wheels. Right side wheels if you drive on the left side of the road in your country. So that way you can hear, anything that their wheels go over. That's really significant. And that does provide another problem with drafting, and I do not recommend drafting on a road that you have not ridden out before. I only recommend drafting if you pre-ride the road so that you know if there's any serious potholes. Because I've hit some serious potholes in group rides even, because I've been going down a road I didn't know before. Which brings me to the next point. Weight matters, but why does weight matter? Well, because of hills? Because it saves 30 seconds every so many miles up a hill? No. Grams and pounds matter because of inertia. Now, inertia is part of the 2 forces that drag you down when you go up a hill. And I explained this in a comment a while ago, and I'll elaborate that on maybe the next video or maybe some other video in the future. But when you're going up a hill, you have 2 forces working against you. You have the total power that it takes to get up the hill, and then you have the power that you spend during the time that you take to go up it, which means the longer it takes to go up a hill, ultimately the more energy you will put out. Okay, not more power, but more energy. It is more power, but it's more power over time. Okay, it's less power. Alright, you need a lot less power going 100 watts up a hill. You'll be going really, really slow, up like a 6% incline. But during that entire time, you'll be resisting the force of gravity, which is different than resisting the force of what is inertia of wheels going up a hill. Okay, a little bit different. There's really 3 forces going up a hill, because technically the wheels themselves want to roll down the hill, and then there's the fulcrum of your axle, which is pushing your weight down a hill. Okay, And I'll explain that more in depth in some other video. But you're going up a hill, basically, inertia is one of the forces you're overcoming. Your mass is accelerating, infinitely accelerating up in an upward slope because it's working against tires. It's not the same when you run up a hill because you don't have wheels. And this only happens because of wheels. And it's not rotational inertia. It's just wheel inertia, because what you're really doing when you're fighting a hill is, if this is the base ground, okay, then when you're going up a hill, okay, there's a measurement between what goes straight to your axle and what is pulling in terms of gravity. And that only works with wheels, okay? So you gotta have that much space maybe in a percent incline, and then so your gravity is pulling you this way, alright? And but the surface of the ground is this way, and that's the leverage, okay? That's the leverage that is pulling you backwards, and that's inertia. You're overcoming inertia when you're doing that. So, and that's just part of it. Then there's the actual hill climb. So when you run up a hill, you don't have inertia to overcome. You just have, well, once you get up to speed, your speed is going diagonally up when you're running. When you're on a bike, it's not. It's actually going forward. Okay, it's your speed is perfectly parallel to the horizon when you're on a bicycle. That's why it's important to realize that inertia makes you go faster when you're going down hills on a bike and slower when you're going up hills. Okay, inertia is not what affects runners. Runners are affected by gravity. Gravity is pulling them down the hill, and it's resisting them when they go up. And that is also a force that cyclists have to overcome, but it's not the one that has to do with inertia. And I know I'm making this a little bit complicated, but I want to kind of just now explaining it. So I guess that's stage one in understanding inertia. So inertia is one of the forces resisting you going up hills. The less weight you have, then the easier it is for you. Okay. I'll explain more about just general use inertia in my next and final video on forces that resist you on a bike, and then we'll start talking about forces that make you go faster. And I know that these videos are super entertaining, but bear with me because I don't own a GoPro.